What tipped me over, however, was Margaret Thatcher's thumping defeat of Labour at the recent election. As I said, the British public are idiots. When the news came in, I called Trevor and agreed to go. He had already declined on my behalf, he admitted, but he would see if he could turn things around. Exchanging Thatcher's Britain for Reagan's America didn't appear to be much of a deal, but New York has never represented what we think of as America, just as London is not representative of Britain. Besides, I always liked New York. I have been tempted to move to America. I visited many times since the 60s. I'd choose the sunny side, though. Southern California, San Diego, Palm Springs, Los Angeles. I stayed in Malibu for a few blazing months just after I turned 40. That script never got written in the end, though the film was made, regardless. Someone else adapted my novel, while I spent my days missing my children and listening to Joni Mitchell albums, and my nights fucking Carl in that bedroom overlooking the Pacific Ocean. I still got paid. I suppose you could call it my midlife crisis. Do women have midlife crises? Carl wasn't from Malibu, either. No one is. He was an actor in his late 20s. Just what I needed at that time. Nobody's heard of him. Spent his days surfing rather than going to auditions. Just another casualty of California's smiling promise. That was 10 years ago. He must be staring at the rear end of an 18-year-old waitress and contemplating his own midlife crisis by now. What surprised me most about California was the optimism. I couldn't understand it. I wouldn't have minded had there been good cause for it, but I could find none. Not in Hollywood. Not in the American way of life. Maybe once, briefly, in the early 60s, but not in the early 70s in Nixon's America. I suppose that's why positive thinking took hold and became such a valued commodity on the West Coast. I suppose it is an essential component of the American dream, too. The only one that is cheap and available to all. Of course, I adopted a positive outlook. When in Rome, besides, pessimism made one a pariah. Sarcasm was outlawed, irony unknown. If one couldn't afford 2 cars, a pool, 3 bathrooms, and a television in every room, at least one could have an indefatigably positive outlook. It was a free country, after all, but somehow my optimism always struck the wrong note. Even my smile unnerved people. I don't know whether a Brit can ever be a full-throated optimist. They haven't even reversed out of the terminal. Passengers are still finding their seats. They're all doing last-minute things in a muted panic. The man seated next to me is already reading. Apart from an awkward hello and a bit of jostling as he took his seat and arranged his things, he has been silent and still. He hasn't looked up once. He must fly regularly. I don't. Not anymore. So I have been watching everything with interest. I love to watch people and eavesdrop. I can't help myself. This scene, with passengers taking their seats and struggling with hand luggage, everyone at cross purposes, is repeated all day on dozens of flights at hundreds of airports, and must seem commonplace to those working. But this moment won't happen again. Not just to me, but to all of us. Life is like that. Even the steward's brief conversation with the passenger directly in front of me is unique. The steward must have had hundreds of exchanges with passengers in the last month alone, but this one is different. The middle-aged male passenger is complaining that the window won't open. "They are not supposed to open," is the steward's patient reply. "The window on my last flight did," he says. "Well, I'm sorry, sir, this one doesn't. Is there anything else?" Since when have windows opened on a jumbo jet? An hour into the flight, everything has quietened down. I have read, or skimmed, through 100 pages of Hollywood Wives, but I need a rest. The book is too big for the pocket in front of me, so it must remain on my lap. There is nothing to see out of the window. The man seated beside me is still reading. He is reaching the end of the paperback. I should be thankful, for he is the most accommodating of men. I have ownership of both armrests, as his forearms are on his lap. He holds the book.